I live in a small cul-de-sac. Nothing fancy, nothing special. Just one of those neighborhoods where houses are lined up neatly, lawns are trimmed to varying degrees of care, and people wave when they take their trash cans out, but otherwise keep to themselves. It's the kind of place where you'd think drama is scarce, because really, what could possibly happen in such a quiet spot? My house is on the bend, with a driveway that fits exactly 2 cars. One for me, one for my husband. Perfectly measured. Not an inch more, not an inch less. I never thought much about it until recently, because apparently not everyone in this neighborhood understands the basic concept of private property. For the longest time, things were fine. We'd come and go, park our cars, wave politely to the occasional jogger or dog walker, and that was it. But then came, let's call him Jack. He lives a few houses down. At first glance, he looks harmless enough. Mid-40s maybe, thinning hair, perpetually wearing a faded baseball cap, and that kind of forced grin you can't quite trust. I never really paid him much attention until one evening after work when I pulled into my street and noticed something off. There was a car parked in my driveway. Not mine, not my husband's. Some other car entirely. A dull blue sedan, slightly dented on one side. At first, I thought I must have pulled into the wrong house. That's how surreal it felt. But no, my porch light was on, my welcome mat in its usual crooked angle. This was definitely my home. And yet, there was a stranger's car sitting smugly in my driveway, like it belonged there. I remember putting my car in park, just staring at it for a moment, my brain trying to process. Then, out of nowhere, Jack comes strolling over, casual as ever. "Oh hey," he said, like we were old friends. "That's my brother's car. He's just stopping by for a sec." I blinked. A sec? As in what? 2 minutes? 10? An hour? It was so unexpected that I didn't even argue. I just nodded stiffly, drove around to the curb, and parked on the street. I figured, okay, it's weird, but maybe it was just a mistake. Maybe he didn't think it was a big deal. I told myself not to make it awkward. But here's the thing about letting people slide just once. They think they can keep sliding. A week later, it happened again. This time it was some friend of his dropping something off. I came home tired, wanting nothing more than to peel off my scrubs, collapse on the couch, and shut out the world. Instead, I had to shuffle around this stranger's car like I was the intruder in my own home. "Oh, sorry about that," Jack said when I mentioned it, giving me that half smile that wasn't really an apology. "They'll be gone soon." He said it in a way that made me feel like the uptight one. Like I was the problem for daring to want access to my own driveway. And then it kept happening. Not every day, but enough. A car here, a truck there. Sometimes just for a sec, sometimes for longer. Each time, I'd come home from work and feel my stomach sink when I saw something shiny and unfamiliar sitting in the spot where my car should have been. I started to resent the sight of his house, the sound of his laugh drifting across the cul-de-sac, the way he'd wave with that smug grin as though nothing was wrong. One night, it really hit a breaking point. I had gone grocery shopping after a long shift. 5 heavy bags, the kind cutting into your fingers, even through the plastic. I pulled onto my street, exhausted but relieved that I was finally home. Except, there it was again. A massive pickup truck sprawled across my driveway, its tires practically touching my garage door. I froze. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. All I could think was, not again. Please not again. I ended up parking halfway down the street, hauling those bags one by one, my arms aching, my legs like jelly from 12 hours on my feet. By the time I got everything inside, I was fuming. Not just irritated, fuming. I confronted Jack the next day, voice sharper than usual. "Listen, I really need you to stop having people park in my driveway. It's not convenient for me. I need access." He gave me the same look, the same grin. Yeah, I get it. Won't be a problem. What was a problem? Because a promise from him was worth less than the gum stuck to the bottom of my shoe. The final straw came on a Friday night. A night so long and draining that my bones ached. I remember pulling into the cul-de-sac, the clock glowing past 10, my stomach growling loud enough to be embarrassing. I had takeout sitting on the seat beside me, the smell of fries filling the car, taunting me. All I wanted was to pull in, kick off my shoes, and eat in peace. But of course, that's not what happened. This time it wasn't a sedan or a pickup. It was a giant white SUV, parked not just in my driveway, but smack in the middle. So bold, so blatant, it looked like it was mocking me. There was no squeezing in beside it, no angling around it. It completely blocked me out. I sat there for a moment, gripping the wheel, my chest tightening. Exhaustion mixed with fury, the kind that makes your vision blur. I marched up to his door and knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, harder. Still nothing. My fists were practically bruising from the effort. Finally, I called him. When he picked up, his voice was casual, almost lazy. "Oh yeah, that's my in-laws. They'll only be there a couple hours. Just park on the street. It's not a big deal." Not a big deal. The words echoed in my head like a taunt. Not a big deal. My empty stomach, my aching body, my blocked driveway, all of it dismissed with a shrug. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I sat in my car for a good 5 minutes after hanging up, staring at that gleaming white SUV parked in my driveway like it owned the place. My fries were cooling, the condensation from the drink cup dripping steadily onto the seat, but I couldn't bring myself to move. My heart was racing, my mind replaying his words over and over. Just park on the street, it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Except it was a big deal. I worked 12 hours straight on my feet, handling emergencies most people couldn't stomach for 5 minutes, and he thought my exhaustion, my right to my own home, was something to casually dismiss. No, not this time. I grabbed my phone again, but not to call him back. I pulled up the number I'd Googled months earlier during one of those what-if moments when his little habit had first started to irritate me. A local tow company. I'd read the rules carefully back then, just to make sure I wasn't being unreasonable. And sure enough, it was clear as day. Any car blocking a private driveway could be towed immediately. No warnings necessary. When the dispatcher picked up, my voice was steady. Too steady. Ah, yes. I need a vehicle removed from my driveway. It's unauthorized. Yes, private property. Yes, I'll be here. They promised someone would be over within half an hour. I hung up and leaned back in my seat, feeling the smallest ripple of satisfaction break through the storm cloud of my exhaustion. For once, I wasn't going to be the pushover. For once, I was going to make sure the message stuck. True to their word. The tow truck arrived in about 20 minutes. The rumble of its engine echoed down the cul-de-sac, its flashing lights catching on the windows of nearby houses. I stood on my porch as the driver got to work, a burly man with a no-nonsense look about him. "This the one?" he asked, nodding toward the SUV. "That's the one," I said, arms folded tightly across my chest. He gave a low whistle. "Yeah, that's bold. Right in the middle, huh?" "Yep, bold is one word for it." He chuckled, hooked up the SUV with practiced ease, and within minutes it was being winched onto the back of the tow truck. The whole scene felt almost cinematic. The hum of the machinery, the sight of the massive vehicle being lifted away like a misbehaving child dragged off to detention. By the time he drove off, I felt lighter, relieved, victorious even. My driveway was empty, as it should have been all along. I pulled my car in. Finally, the satisfying crunch of tires on gravel like music to my ears. I reheated my fries, devoured them at the kitchen table, and for the first time in weeks, felt like I had truly reclaimed my space. But of course, the peace didn't last long. An hour later, the pounding started. It wasn't a polite knock. It was fists hammering so hard on the door that the wood rattled in its frame. I froze mid-bite, then slowly set my burger down, wiped my hands on a napkin, and walked to the door. Through the peephole, I saw him. Jack. His face was bright red, his hat pushed back, his jaw working furiously. Behind him, a cluster of people loomed, his in-laws, no doubt. Their voices were raised, angry, carrying through the still night air. I opened the door only enough to step into the frame. "What the hell is wrong with you?" He exploded the moment he saw me. "You tow my in-law's car? Are you insane?" I kept my voice even, calm, the exact opposite of his. "Your in-law's car was blocking my driveway. I couldn't get in. You told me it wasn't a big deal, so I treated it like it wasn't a big deal." His mouth opened, closed, then opened again. That's not the same thing. You could have just parked on the street. You didn't have to do this." Behind him, his in-laws shouted over each other. A woman's voice cut through. "You cost us $300. $300. Do you know how ridiculous that is?" I met her glare without flinching. Not as ridiculous as expecting me to give up my driveway whenever it's convenient for you. Jack jabbed a finger at me, sputtering. "You're petty. You know that. Petty. We've been neighbors for years, and you can't even cut me a little slack." Something in me snapped, but not in the way he expected. Instead of shouting back, I smiled. A cold, sharp smile that seemed to make him pause. "Slack goes both ways," I said quietly. "And I've been cutting you slack for weeks. Consider it used up." Then I closed the door. The pounding resumed, louder this time, mixed with angry voices, but I didn't answer. I sat back down at my table, finished my meal, and let them rage outside. Eventually, the noise died away. Tires screeched, doors slammed, and the cul-de-sac went quiet again. The next morning, when I stepped outside, the sun was shining, the air was crisp, and my driveway was gloriously empty. No cars, no trucks, no versus, just my space waiting for me like it always should have. And from that day forward, it stayed that way. No more just a sec. No more dropping something off. No more excuses. My driveway was mine again. And it was amazing how quickly the peace returned once the line had been drawn so firmly. Funny, isn't it? All it took was one tow truck to accomplish what weeks of polite requests never could. And though Jack still gave me the occasional look when we crossed paths, half resentment, half disbelief, he never said another word about it. Not one. Because he knew. He knew I wasn't playing around anymore. And neither was my driveway. For days after the tow, the atmosphere in the cul-de-sac felt different. It wasn't just me noticing it either. People who used to wave politely from their porches suddenly seemed more watchful. Curtains twitched when I pulled in my driveway, as though the neighborhood had quietly tuned into a new soap opera called The Driveway Wars. Jack's house, meanwhile, was buzzing. His in-laws came and went for the rest of the weekend, their voices carrying across the cul-de-sac in sharp, clipped tones. Every so often, I'd catch Jack standing on his lawn, arms crossed, glaring in my direction like he was daring me to step outside and start something. But I didn't. I didn't need to, because the silence of my driveway said it all. It stayed empty. Every day, every night. For the first time in weeks, I could pull in after work and not feel that flash of irritation, that sinking sense of dread. My driveway was just a driveway again, simple, unremarkable, mine. And the sheer normalcy of it felt like luxury. Of course, Jack tried his little digs. He'd mutter under his breath if we crossed paths at the mailbox. He'd make sarcastic comments loud enough for me to hear when he was outside with his buddies. Things like, "Careful where you park, don't want the tow truck mafia showing up." I ignored him every time because deep down, I knew I'd already won. The neighborhood started to notice too. One evening, while I was pulling weeds in my front yard, an older neighbor strolled by, leash in hand. She paused, gave me a knowing smile, and said, "Good for you. Should have been done a long time ago." That one sentence was all I needed to confirm it. I wasn't the villain here. I was just the one who finally stood up. Over the next few weeks, things settled into a new rhythm. Jack's house was still noisy, still chaotic with friends and relatives coming and going, but none of their cars ever crossed the invisible boundary of my driveway again. The message had stuck, and the $300 retrieval fee had etched it into memory like a scar. Funny thing is, I didn't feel guilty. Not once. If anything, I felt freer. There's a certain peace that comes when you stop asking nicely for respect and start demanding it. My driveway wasn't just concrete and gravel. It was a line in the sand. And once I defended it, no one dared cross it again.